As we go down the news purge, it's time for biowars, enviro health updates. And again, we just like to mention, with no great fanfare here, and that's my fault for not covering this perhaps in greater detail, it's difficult sometimes to go into the past when there's so much in the present. But we should note that it's pretty much the 5-year anniversary of the catalyzing catastrophic events of Hurricane Katrina. And we're still just only finding out more about those events, as we're still only finding out about the Gulf oil spill, as I've now joked that apparently, oh, well, the Iraq war's over and the Gulf spill is all gone. We can go back to paying attention to reality television and sports, steroids, and other bread and circus distractions. But first on our biowars enviro health updates from Washington's blog, a Gulf chemist says and claims that mercenaries hired by BP are now applying Corexit, the toxic dispersant, at night and in an uncontrolled manner, and that would be the Corexit which BP says it no longer uses. Bob Naiman, analytical chemist, 30-plus years experience in the field. He has been conducting tons and tons of tests. There are a lot of photos here, but we'll jump down to the pertinent point for you. Naiman further said he saw mercenaries dressed in all black fatigues using GPS coordinates applying Corexit at Dauphin Island at Bayou La Batre, Alabama. The mercenaries were Blackwater-type mercenaries, and Naiman assumed they must have been hired by either BP or the government. Naiman also told WashingtonsBlog.com that Corexit is being sprayed at night and that it is being applied in such a haphazard manner that undiluted 9527 is running onto beach sand. For confirmation and explanation of these claims, link, more from WashingtonsBlog.com, switchboard.org, and counterpunch.org. As I said, this is a catastrophe that they're almost quite literally sweeping under the rug, using Corexit to sort of artificially disperse this oil. It's not cleaning it up. And meanwhile, as we watch the media memes, and that's what we do here, we see then films like Piranha 3D come out, and all these films about environmental biowar catastrophes. And it gets worse and worse and worse. Again, from Washington's blog, portions of the Gulf are so toxic that animals are trying to crawl out of the water. Multiple sources of people saying fish and other aquatic animals are trying to basically leap out of the water. Thousands of dead fish surface at the mouth of the Mississippi River. More on that from Raw Story. But on around the world, plastic pollution in the Atlantic Ocean. More on that from allgov.com. MyFoxNY.com notes, uninsured slow to sign up for coverage. How slow? Just 2 people in New Jersey will begin receiving coverage under new plans created by federal health care reforms. 2 people in Hackensack, New Jersey sign up for Obamacare. U.S. Postal Service test bioterror response. BioPrepWatch.com has been tracking this story again. They're training our postal workers to hand out vaccines. I'm sure that'll just be good for you. An interesting story from digitaltrends.com. Artificial plant harvests kinetic energy. And our last biowar enviro health notes come from Press TV. Brazil witnesses fire tornado. Now, I suppose that story could go right alongside with the Norway spiral and the Haiti quake and the lights. And again, a lot of these bizarre earth changes and events that we're seeing. And again, they're being predictively played out in our favorite film and television. That's why it's important to not only not hate the media, but become the media, but become media literate. A fire tornado. Well, at least God said he wasn't going to destroy the world by water again. On to the drug war. From the CBC, cannabis car to be made in Canada. An electric car made of hemp is being developed by a group of Canadian companies in collaboration with an Alberta Crown corporation. The Kestrel will be prototyped and tested later in August by Calgary-based Motive Industries Incorporated, a vehicle development firm focused on advanced materials and technologies. The electric cannabis car. Now, don't believe for a second that, oh God, we just invented these things. We could have been powering cars with cannabis and ethanol forever. Everybody knows hemp and those fibers are the best. That's why they're here. And making them illegal is, as Bill Hicks would say, a little unnatural. And that ties in again with Standard Oil and all of those things that, again, these elites have foisted us and gotten us hooked on, whether it's bad food or bad terror juice or any of those things, or the web. It's like a drug. They'll give it to you for free, and then they get you hooked, and then they're going to pull the rug out and blame us for doing it because we're so dirty. Meanwhile, the sun is heating up. Caps are melting on other moons and planets. Your SUV isn't doing that. Now, I generally think you're probably a wasteful dumbass if you're driving around too many SUVs and garbage. But again, you got to be the change you want to see in the world. And I digress. Let's get the rest of the drug war updates. 2010 pot legalization push began at HempFest in Seattle. More on that from newsjunkiepost.com. GQ.com writer works at a marijuana coffee shop and writes about it. My cushy new job. Another interesting one from the News of the Weird of clicktohouston.com. 13 bears surround police in pot field. Police who uncovered 2 marijuana fields near the U.S.-Canada border had to tread carefully. 13 black bears were wandering around the crops. Cops come and try and snatch bears' crops. Our last drug war note is unbelievable, and the DEA do like to visit Media Monarchy from time to time, but this story from allgov.com, Ebonics speakers needed to work for Drug Enforcement Administration. Now, in their job posting, they don't, I believe, come out and say Ebonics, but you know what they mean. We need to speak the lingo. Because, I mean, that's always been the way. You create language to get around folks you don't want hearing what you're talking about, like you did when you were a kid. On to History Mystery. And again, this is, I feel, one of those stories that's been floating around, as so many things, and as gets made fun of in the mass media. The crazy conspiracy theorists that rant and rave about things and live on mountaintops and do crazy radio shows that ultimately pretty much always turn out to be right. Hitler DNA tests show he likely had Jewish and African roots. Adolf Hitler may have been descended from both Jews and Africans, DNA tests are reporting. The Daily Mail says journalists Jean-Paul Mulders and historian Mark Vermeeren used DNA to trace 39 of the Nazi leaders' relatives earlier this year. The relatives included an Austrian farmer identified only as a cousin named Norbert H. A chromosome called Y-DNA in the relative saliva samples is rare in Germany as well as Western Europe. It's most commonly found in the Berbers of Morocco, in Algeria, Libya, and Tunisia, as well as among Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews. Mulders told Belgian magazine Knack that, quote, one can from this postulate that Hitler was related to people whom he despised. We've seen a lot of the talk and chatter lately about Oliver Stone's upcoming series, I believe The Secret History of America, which, of course, Daniel Hopsicker already used that title 10 years ago. And he's getting a lot of flack for saying he was going to put Hitler in context, because, of course, you can't say anything about Hitler or Israel or the Holocaust or you're a racist anti-Semite. And that's the way the whole game has been set up, which we're going to further expose a little bit later in this episode. The powers that be fund most sides, and anytime there's a real grassroots uprising, it's infiltrated and misdirected in a COINTELPRO-like fashion. Hitler was loved and adored by the industrialists, and he loved the Western eugenicists, like Margaret Sanger, racist founder of Planned Parenthood. The sinister forces behind all of these things you must explore. From OpEdNews.com, Oswald and His 12 Handlers, Part 1, Mother, Meyer, and the Spotters. Now, perhaps as we approach the JFK assassination anniversary, maybe all the parts of these stories will be out and we'll go through these and flesh this out further. That, again, it sometimes takes a long time, and the crazy conspiracy theorists aren't believed, whether that was Mark Lane or Jim Garrison, but it comes out later. And unfortunately, nobody does anything about it. One interesting tabloid note from, where do we get this from? CelebrityGossip.net. Katie Holmes, she of the Tom Cruise Scientology cult, more on that in just a moment, is shooting some TV movie or something with Greg Kinnear, and she's playing Jackie Kennedy, so a bunch of photos leaked of Katie Holmes dressed up as Jackie Kennedy in the iconic pink outfit that she wore on November 22nd, 1963. Again, bizarre connections. Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, Babylon working, occult. It's all there. So, speaking of Scientology, let's get a couple of holy hex updates. First, from the New York Post, Stanley Kubrick's widow lost daughter to Scientology. Stanley Kubrick might be spinning in his grave. His daughter Vivian, 50, had a falling out with him when he was directing his last movie, Eyes Wide Shut, about cultish secret society-like behavior, and she came to his funeral in '99 with a female minder from the Church of Scientology. How nice. Kubrick's widow, Christiane Kubrick, told The Guardian, quote, "I've had 2 conversations with her since Stanley died. The last one was 8 years ago. She became a Scientologist and didn't want to talk to us anymore." Vivian never went to see her older sister, Anya, as she was dying of cancer, or came to her funeral in 2009, Christiane says, adding, "And these were children that had been joined at the hip." At 17, Vivian made the documentary The Making of The Shining. At 24, she composed the score for Full Metal Jacket. She's a fabulous person, Christiane Kubrick told the paper. Beautiful, very witty, enormously talented. We had fights, but she was hugely loved, and now I've lost her to the cult of Scientology. Our other holy hex note goes to truthout.org. Troops punished after refusing to attend evangelical concert. Hooah!